Sorry, my looks like my arrow migrated to a place I didn't want it to go. They do that sometimes. So I wanted to talk about the differences between content marketing as a term and marketing content. I think in the publishing space, often those two terms get confused and conflated. So I just wanted to touch on first, what's the difference? I have the definition of content marketing up here from the Content Marketing Institute. I'll let you read that. But, basically content marketing is designed to drive engagement, oftentimes at the awareness and interest stage of the buyer's journey. So what it's not product focused. It's typically not behind a firewall. It might be behind a lead generation page at times. And it's not meant to be promotional in nature. And then what about marketing content? So I think that's where we think of more traditional product marketing. So it's often brand building in the scholarly publishing space, proprietary content. It's often executed to drive citations, submissions, sales, and/or usage. So why content marketing? I think in the inbound marketing world, the game has really changed. So I think we recognize now that we're not really just competing with our competitors in the online space. We're competing with everything. So it might be your family's cute baby photos, CAD videos, or the next trivia game. But this isn't a new concept. I think content marketing has been a buzzword now for about 6 or 7 years, but back in 1895, the John Deere Tractor Company started a free magazine they distributed to farmers to distribute, to build their brand, essentially. So it was freely distributed. Another example from 1900 was the Michelin Guide. Now, are there any guesses as to why a tire company would create a guide in order to rate hotels and restaurants? Exactly. They wanted to sell tires by having the few people who had cars at the time, travel around. So how are we using content marketing at Wiley? Back in 2013, we started a corporate blog for the scholarly publishing community. And at that time, it was basically to avoid sending around newsletters to our different customer groups that oftentimes had the same information. So a blog just seemed like a very logical and smart replacement for that. And then back in 2016, we leveraged the success of the blog to really make it more of a content marketing platform, and also to expand it to some of Wiley's other key customer segments. So that included educators, faculty, and professionals. And obviously, those folks often overlap with the scholarly publishing community. So what are we offering? We're offering on the platform content that really informs, helps solves problems, and occasionally entertains. And it's really a group effort. So we have contributions to the platform from marketers at Wiley, from some of our editorial folks at Wiley, and we also have external contributors from the communities that we serve with this blog. So how does content marketing serve us then? We feel it serves us by serving our customers. So we're providing content to the visitors to the site that is going to help them in their academic or professional careers. And with that, we're driving engagement, we're establishing our thought leadership on these topics, and it's expanding our digital footprint. Beyond that, marketers can use this content to implement into their campaigns at various stages of their campaign planning. And they can also point to the content via their social channels. And in some cases, we can use the platform a little bit differently. So the example up here is a piece that was written by our former CEO last year. And it was really more of a positioning statement about Wiley's position on the Muslim immigration ban last year. So what are some of our wins? We've been surveying some visitors to the site, and not only are we gathering information about people's experience on the site, but we're also gathering insights into how they feel about Wiley as a brand. So this first point is about the likelihood of them to do business with Wiley. Another key metric for me is generating leads at the top of the sales and marketing funnel via registrants for email content alerts for this free content. Then we're also, as I mentioned before, expanding our digital footprint by driving traffic to the site and subsequently our e-commerce site. We're also profiling new contacts, so we're seeing where our contacts are engaging, what pieces of content they're engaging with, and getting insights from that. And as I mentioned before, we're continuing to drive traffic to Wiley.com. So what's the heavy lifting? I think starting a content marketing program from scratch is always a challenge, but I think one of the biggest challenges is really figuring out what type of content you're going to serve your audience. So at Wiley, we have a team that creates pretty sophisticated personas for each of our customer segments. And so each piece of content that we create is aimed at a specific persona. I know that a lot of different organizations don't necessarily have the in-house resources to do that, but having a really strong understanding of what types of content your audience will engage with is a good starting point. And then there's going to be a lot of experimentation that happens and trial and error as you create content. And then knowing, where each piece of content is along the customer journey is really important. So are you really creating this content at that early stage, or is the content a little more product focused, and knowing where to add that content into your campaign planning is important. And then also just defining your objectives from the outset. So I have my own objectives for the site as a whole, and a lot of that are aimed at driving the registrations for the alerts, but then we each have individual objectives for each piece of content. So with each piece of content, we're trying to drive an action or a conversion. That might be visiting a website, it might be, driving webinar registrations, or driving someone to follow you on social. So why do publishers have an edge? Well, publishers and information providers have access to great authors and thought leaders and influencers, and that's huge. That means that we have like a starting point for thought leadership and content. And often proprietary content can be repurposed into content marketing in some cases. Beyond that, the research community is pretty contained. It's a connected community. So I think in some cases it's a little bit easier to get a handle on what types of topics to start with. And as we know, more and more people are being influenced by thought leadership and their peers. So when you have a community and you're serving up content by those community members, it can influence purchasing decisions. So where are we headed? We're actually going back full circle, back to marketing content, but we're sort of marketing our content marketing. At this point, we have to really make sure that we're not just churning out content for content's sake, but really looking at each piece of content, making sure that we're using it properly to its fullest, in whether it be in campaigns, in via social, or via other means. And we're also trying to look at measuring each individual piece of content and visitors' engagement with it a little better. So right now we're looking at new platforms that can offer better engagement metrics. And we also, with that, we want better integration with our customer relationship management system. So check out the site when you get a chance, the Wiley Network, and thank you.